Welcome to the Splash Live, Greater West Bloomfield's very own daily TV radio streaming show. I'm Ronnie Dahl, your host. It's great you are waking up with us on this Monday morning. I hope you've had some very good coffee to keep you going. Just to let you know, you can always watch live on Civic Center TV, Comcast Channel 15, AT&T Channel 99, and on the web at civiccentertv.com and on Civic Center TV's Facebook app. And of course, if you're out driving around, tune us in on the radio, 89.3 Lakes FM. And did you know the Splash Live is part of Civic Center TV and Lakes FM's 150 minutes of live local programming? You can catch the show 9:30 a.m. Monday through Friday, followed by the Oakland County Megacast with Tyler Keefe. That's at 10. And then he continues on. Mr. Tyler always working around the clock for Michigan's Megacast at 11 a.m. You know, just to take a look, I hope everyone had a great weekend. The weather was beautiful here in our area. So many people out on the lakes enjoying the weather. And there's really a lot going on here in our area of the Greater West Bloomfield community. And one of the biggest things I'm so happy to report to you this morning is West Bloomfield, the main library. Guess what? It is back open. The temporary full building AC unit was installed and is now up and running to the point that doors reopened over the weekend. Repairs, we know, right? Anyone knows they're taking a little bit longer than expected. And that's due to the supply chain issues with getting some of the needed parts for repairs. But the great thing is they tested this new AC unit over the weekend. It was able to maintain the temperature that they needed to reopen their doors. So summer fun reading for the kids. Everything is back on over at the main library. Not the same great news, though, for repairs at Roosevelt Elementary School here in Kegel Harbor. Many of you know a ceiling collapsed in a classroom. That was at the end of the school year, so back in June. But due to the extent of the damage, the district has made the decision to move Roosevelt Elementary School to the old West Bloomfield Middle School, which for all of us, it's Abbott. And that's going to be happening for the start of the 2022-2023 school year. It's unknown if and when Roosevelt is going to be opening for the students. We, of course, will keep a close eye on that story because for so many people here in our community, it really matters to them. They have been fighting to keep that school open. So we'll keep watching that for them as well. Hey, want to let you know, by the way, if you're in the Sylvan Lake area today, so Sylvan, Kegel, West Bloomfield, that corner area, we got to let you know, they're going to have a drone up and flying around. If you see one, don't be concerned. It's not maybe your neighbors sneaking around, spying on you. It's DTE. The drone is being used to patrol the area to check out DTE's overhead equipment. It's so they can get a better look at the condition of the equipment and to determine if upgrades or replacements are needed. And if any, I think this is a great program. So the drone, just so you know, is going to be up from 9 a.m. until 2 p.m. I think a drone is so much better. In the past, they have used an airplane, which living in the area, we'd see that plane really low and you were concerned. And then come to find out maybe, a day or two later that it was actually DTE doing these checks. So they're now using a drone. That's the beauty of modern technology. We know a lot of police departments are use this as well, like following storm damage. It's great. They can just put the drone up, get into the areas that maybe would be inaccessible by the ground, take an assessment, see what's happening, and then utilize this technology. So DTE is getting on board with that. How great is that? So many other things going on here in the West Bloomfield, but greater West Bloomfield community. But you know what we need? we need you to help us with all of that. So we are here. The Splash Live is on air Monday through Friday, 9:30 a.m. until 10 a.m. And I'm a part of your community. I live here, and I'm always looking for great people to interview. We're all invested in our community and our neighborhoods. So let me know about people or your businesses, or maybe it's someone that's doing a great thing in your neighborhood. And we're kind of changing things up just a little bit here at Civic Center TV, in that we are now giving you this QR code. So you can take your phone, because our phones are smarter than us. That's why they call them smartphones. And then you can hold it up to that little box, and you can scan it. And once you scan it, it's going to give you this like Google Docs. And then what you can do is you can go on and you let us know about the people, or if you want to be a guest on one of our shows, not even necessarily the Splash. Maybe you want to be on the MegaCast with Tyler. Well, you can do that as well. And so that is going to take you to a program called the Calendar, and then you can put in your information and try to schedule your time slot. And then, of course, we'll go through them and see if, in fact, you're a good fit, or if a better time slot, or, try to determine the topics that you want to talk about. But I love this because you know what? It gives the power back to you, the people of our community, to be involved in what we are doing and what we are talking about here on the Splash Live, as well as the MegaCast. And so with that, one of the best things about this job for me is always the fact that I can talk to so many people here locally in our community, in my community. And one of the best people I have learned from over the last 2 years of helping out with the Splash Live, as well as the MegaCast, is our good friend Debbie Binder with the Clerk's office. The primary is just a few weeks away. And so I was bugging Debbie this morning because Debbie, I was having a brunch yesterday, and I had so many friends over, and we were talking about the primaries. And I was really surprised at how many people don't think the primaries are important. And I'm like, what are you talking about? It's just as important as our main election. Do you get this question all the time as well?
We do a little bit, but what we are noticing is the turnout is really low so far. We've sent out quite a few ballots, but we're not seeing as many back as we would like to. I don't think people understand the importance of the primary, because in a primary, you are determining who is going to go on that ballot that you vote in November. So it's really critical. If you want your voice heard as to who you're going to be voting for in the general, you need to be out there in the primary helping determine that outcome.
So can I ask you, Debbie, as well, because by this time we're technically 3 weeks out from the primary, but this year is a little bit different, right? We have the absentee ballot. So does that kind of help give you a gauge as to what the turnout's going to be when we come up to the August 2nd date?
Well, we have always had absentee voting. In 2018, with Proposal 3, it became no reason absentee voting. It was overwhelmingly approved by the voters. And that allows for anybody who wishes to vote by absentee to do so, where prior to Proposal 3, you needed to have a reason. So we have seen an increase in absentee voting as people exercise that right to vote by absentee. Those absentee ballots are every bit as valid as a vote that's cast in the precinct. So the answer is kind of yes, we can gauge a little bit more, because we do see, that there has been an increasing turnout via absentee ballot. However, I think with the end of COVID, I think there may be more people that are going back to the polls. I for one, I like to vote in the polls. It's what I've always done. Not because I don't trust my absentee ballot. I completely trust that my absentee ballot would count. I just like the energy, and I like to go get my sticker. Well, for the last few years, I have voted by absentee with COVID, and I was glad I had the opportunity to do so with, the Proposal 3. However, I will be one who's returning to the polls. So I think it's kind of hard to gauge right now how many people are going to go back to the polls. But what we're seeing as early indicators with the absentees is a lower number than I would have expected in terms of turnout.
And here's the thing that I think is great about the absent or the primaries rather, is that you can vote absentee. It takes so little effort on your part. So you don't have to wait until election day. Go ahead and get it in and make your voice heard. I'm really hoping that we can kind of spur this conversation to get people engaged. The other thing I heard though yesterday is a lot of people still don't understand the straight party ticket when it comes to the primaries. We've talked about it at length, and I want to say thank you because you've been my educator in all things election. And so I take our conversations and I share them with so many other people. But despite that, so many people are so confused about the straight party voting during the primaries.
The best way to think about it is in a primary, you're voting to select you're voting to see who's going to represent the party, not to represent everybody. And that's an important way to think about it so that you know when you go to the general, you vote for whichever party you'd like. You vote for whichever candidate you'd like. But for the primary, you're selecting who's going to represent the party. So you're required to stay on one side of the ballot. If you do what we call crossover or split your ticket, it does void the partisan section of your ballot. Meaning, let's say you crossed over and you voided that partisan section. However, you had voted for the 2 proposals or 3 proposals, depending on which precinct you're in, those proposals would still count because those are nonpartisan. But your partisan section, you must stay on one side in a primary. Again, you're not voting for who's going to represent everybody. You're voting for who's going to represent the party. And that's a big distinction.
So a question that I got yesterday, and I really couldn't answer it. How does it work, though, to know whether or not you're voting within your party lines? Because, someone such as myself, I'm an independent. I typically vote across party lines, but then the conversation kind of went, well, if I'm a Republican, what prevents me from going into the primary, voting for who I think may be the worst person to represent or to run against my Republican candidate, to vote for that person on the party lines? Is that a valid question?
It's a very valid question, and Michigan does not require registration. So if they're open primaries, anybody can vote in whichever primary they wish. And that's something that, I wish I could tell you hasn't been done for years, but it has been done for years for people to go in and select the candidate they most want to be their opponent on their party. So yes, I think it's a valid concern. I think that one has to weigh out that you're going to also be compromising a vote for your party for who you want to represent, but it is an individual choice by law and the fact that we have open primaries.
That's a good point, though. It's like, hey, if you're voting that way, then you're taking away from who you think is going to represent your party. With that, though, can I ask, because that's part of the election process, right? When I go in and I cast my vote, you don't know who I voted for. And we want that, right? Like, my vote is my vote. It doesn't need to be shared with the world.
Correct. Your vote is your vote. So in a presidential primary, in a presidential year, it's slightly different because you do have to request one ballot or the other. And so you are, choosing one party to vote in a presidential primary by ballot. It's not tracked, who you vote for and everything on that ballot. But there is, they do know, and it's not us. We have no idea who requests what ballot, but that is something that you do have to request. In a regular primary like we have this year, no one would know what party you voted for. You would just vote your party. The ballot is a secret ballot. Any identifier is detached before that ballot is tabulated. So your vote is 100% your vote. It is a secret ballot.
Debbie Binder with us this morning here on the Splash Live. It's always great talking to you. And Debbie, one thing about me, I'm kind of a document person, right? I don't want to use the word that we usually use with me, but I love when I can't sleep at night, I go through and I look at documents and online documents and searches and some world of freedom of information. So many more districts and entities are putting this information online. And one thing, though, we can find out is whether or not a person at least voted. I've been surprised in my years as reporting to find out how many people run for public office, but then they show that maybe they didn't vote for the last how many years. So that should be like at least something that's like your voice matters and people know whether or not you're using your voice.
And we do have that information in the sense that everything is available to the public. By being a municipality, you have what's called, you're bound to the Freedom of Information Act, meaning if people request information, we do have to share certain information. There is also information that is exempt from Freedom of Information Act. For example, on applications, we ask for people's email address and phone number. That is exempt from Freedom of Information Act. The reason we ask for that is if the voter forgets to sign their ballot, if the signature doesn't match, if there's a reason we need to get in touch with that voter to cure a deficiency in their ballot, we want to be able to reach them quickly. So having that phone number or email at hand allows us to do that. That information is exempt from the Freedom of Information Act. But what we are all struggling with is that Freedom of Information Act does require us to release lists of voters with their addresses. So people will request that information. And what happens over time is one organization requests it, they share it with another organization, they merge it with a file that they have, they sell it, they share it. And so a lot of that information isn't up to date. And when you hear about people who get multiple contacts by third-party organizations, I had a call yesterday about, I got something from the Voter Information Center, I forgot the name of it. They're frequently legitimately trying to get out the vote, but it's not your local clerk's office. The only one that you're going to get from your local clerk's office is the red, white, and blue postcard, the fold over postcard. But people do get confused by the fact that they have these contacts. One sent out a voter report card, how you rank in comparison to your peers in terms of your attendance at the polls. It causes concern, especially I once had a woman that came to the window. She had just moved to Michigan to be near her kids and was chastised for her lack of voting in the previous years. She wasn't in Michigan. So it's important, Freedom of Information Act isn't going to change. So it's not going to allow us to not share that information. What becomes important is education of the voter so that they know what contacts are legitimately from your local clerk's office and which are from these third-party contacts. Some again are meant to just get out the vote or to help people engage in absentee voting. Some are meant to confuse. I did have a couple of years ago, my aunt received a text late at night at 11:30 telling her to see if she was registered. She followed the link and it showed that she wasn't registered and she hadn't moved in 25 years. She called me at 11:30 at night because she could. And I looked it up in the qualified voter file, the state's voter roll database, and she was just fine. So whoever sent that contact was simply trying to confuse her. So what matters, if there's any confusion at any time, somebody receives a piece of mail, someone receives a text message. Number one, we don't send any text messages, so I can promise you it's not from your West Bloomfield clerk's office. But if you receive something that is confusing to you, or call or come up here. Plenty do, and I can't stress enough that those are from third-party contacts that have just used lists they've been able to get by Freedom of Information Act, not information that we're sending.
I love that because we didn't even really kind of talk about that before. It's one of the things I just really, it's the primary confusion for so many people, but I love that we went on this subject and you clarified that for people as well. And I will say for anyone out there, like, putting in a FOIA, sometimes it's not so cheap. So I hope you're making a little bit of money off that. But Debbie, we always appreciate your time. You're so great and so knowledgeable.
Ronnie, I just want to clarify we don't make money on the FOIAs because we can only charge what it costs us in terms of staff to do. So it is not a profit center at all. It is literally to cover the expenses of having a staff member dedicated to producing that FOIA if there's a lot of information involved.
Well, thank you so much. And you know what, please extend my gratitude, not only to you, but also your entire staff over there, because I know this is a busy time for you, but we always appreciate your time and your education.
And
as
Ronnie,
well.
Will you just tell your viewers one more thing, that we are open by law, statutorily, we all have to be open some hours the weekend before an election. We will be open at the clerk's office on Saturday, July 30th from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. for absentee voting. So if those of you who can't get in because of work schedules and different things, we have those Saturday hours from 8 to 4 on the 30th. Please participate. Again, this is your opportunity to engage and participate in your democracy, and it's important. Like you said at the beginning, have your voice heard.
I love it. I love voting. I get excited to get to vote. So thank you so much. And we'll compare our voter stickers after the election.
Sounds good. Thanks, Ronnie.
Thanks again. I so appreciate your time. Again, Debbie Binder with the West Bloomfield Township Clerk's Office. The primaries are just 3 weeks away. Please take time to have your voice heard right here in our greater West Bloomfield community. You're watching The Splash Live, part of Civic Center TV and Lakes FM's 150 minutes of local live programming. Catch the show live 9:30 a.m. Monday to Friday, followed by the Oakland County Megacast with Tyler Keefe at 10 and the Michigan Megacast at 11. And of course, you can always catch the information on demand on civiccentertv.com. We'll take a quick break here on the show, and when we come back, we will be joined with the West Bloomfield Parks Department Naturalist specialist. We're going digging for fossils. That's next year on the Splash Live.
We'll be right back with the Splash Live.
In the face of COVID-19, staying healthy is important. And now the same is true as we face the flu. Influenza has the potential to infect millions, putting lives and the healthcare system at risk. Fortunately, it's easy to protect yourself. The flu vaccine is safe and effective, and with COVID-19 still spreading, it's essential. To see how you can hit this virus head on, visit michigan.gov/flu. Can I ask you a question? Why do you want to get the COVID-19 vaccine?
I don't like getting sick. The virus will die. It will be easy to not catch it. Keep my family safe and keep playing soccer. Because I love being vaccinated.
What's your hope for everyone?
I hope everybody gets the vaccine to keep safe and strong. Be happy, having fun everywhere. Everyone stay safe and hope you get the vaccine.
And now, back to the Splash Live.
Great to have you with us here on this Monday morning. I'm Ronnie Dahl. I hope you've had your coffee and you're ready to tackle the week. And you're watching the Splash Live, Greater West Bloomfield's very own daily TV radio streaming show. Watch live on Civic Center TV, Comcast Channel 15, AT&T Channel 99. But the easiest way is to check us out on the web at civiccentertv.com and on Civic Center TV's Facebook app. And if you're out driving around, tune us into the radio, 89.3 Lakes FM. As a member of the community, I'm most happy to say I think the biggest gem here in the Greater West Bloomfield community, our Parks and Recreation Department, and they have had a summer schedule packed full of fun and learning. And with us this morning, Lauren Azoury, Park Naturalist Supervisor over at the Greater West Bloomfield Parks and Recreation Commission. So much fun having you with us. How are you? How's your summer?
So good. Like you said, very, very busy. We've had so many events. It's great to kind of be back in the community, seeing everyone gather together and enjoy the outdoors. But yes, it's been a busy summer in a good way.
You guys do such an amazing job of putting together interesting and educational programming. We've talked before, like you guys did the Bees with the D, where we went out to the farm and my husband and I went, and it was so fun. But you have so many other cool things, especially for our little ones, because you know what? Get off the video games, get back into nature.
Exactly. Well, and we like to be sneaky. So I like to sneak education in. So you think you're coming to this big festival and then somehow you leave learning something,
So one of the fun things I think that you guys have on your schedule is the Paleo Joe fossil, which really kind of goes in with the big Jurassic Park movie coming out this summer.
Exactly. Well, what kid doesn't love dinos? My 7-year-old is a dino obsessed. I've learned so many new words that I didn't even know existed until recently. But all kids just have this obsession with dinosaurs, and it makes sense, right? It's so mystical thinking of all these fossils. So we've invited a guest speaker to help us teach about it. And they're bringing this fossil experience, which is really, really cool. So the kids will get to dig for their own fossils and take them home. So it's a very unique hands-on experience that we're happy to have Paleo Joe come. And he's coming on July 30th, and there's still registration for that available. So we hope lots of kiddos get to join us with their adults to experience some fossil digging.
Because we know it is important to go online and register, because how many kids can you guys have in the class? Do you know?
It's 30 people maximum. So it's a smaller, more intimate program for us. Yep.
Well, just to let you know that I do have a blow up dino costume. They were doing the big thing in Macomb County where they were trying to break the world record of people in the dino costume.
Yeah.
So I bought one to go. So I'll loan it to you if you want to borrow it.
Yeah, I love it. That's awesome.
Hey, the other great thing, you guys have so many cool summer camps going on.
Yes. So we do a lot of nature days with Camp WB, but our nature staff also is offering single day nature camps. So it's just a one full day experience, not the full week. And we've had some great guests that are helping us teach that as well. So a few weeks ago, the Reptarium came and I had this giant snake around my neck. Kids got to hold an alligator. Like, what an amazing, that's a memorable experience, right? They're never going to forget that. So we have one coming up in August that's called Who's Hunting Who? And our guest that's joining us for that is the Michigan Hawking Club, and they're bringing giant birds of prey for the kids to meet and experience.
Oh my gosh, I'm freaking out already. But the great thing about that is I feel like these little encounters can really shape a future for a little kid. It can spark that interest that turns into a lifetime passion.
Exactly. That's why we do it. Absolutely. We want people to love the outdoors and want to protect it and conserve it. So any little fun thing we can give them to take away is important for sure.
We were out on the trail this weekend riding our bikes and went, up and through the little nature area. And we're so lucky to have what you guys have to offer here in the community. You've done an amazing job with the trails, by the way. With that, we're all looking at our world, I think, a little bit differently with COVID, in understanding that we need to preserve Mother Earth. Maybe before COVID, we were wrapped up in our own little worlds, but now we love getting out in nature and we see this incredible world around us. So how can we help? If I'm sitting at home, how can I help with some little tips of protecting Mother Earth?
Yeah, I agree. It's the outdoors has become trendy again. It's become important to everyone's lives again. We understand how important it is for our mental health to enjoy the outdoors, but we do have to preserve it, because if we don't, it won't be there for us. So a few things that we do as a staff that we, hopefully we live the green, we call it living the green dream. So we as a staff do a staff training onboarding for all staff, whether it's admin or seasonal. And some of these things that we try to inspire our staff to do is also helping to inspire people in the community. So we make sure that we don't use plastic water bottles. We all have a reusable logo water bottle that's reusable and refillable, because limiting our single-use plastic is really, really important. We give all of our staff canvas bags so that when they do shop for a program or supplies that we might need, that they're not using those single-use plastic bags as well. So any little thing that you can do to reduce your single-use plastic is really important. Because even if you do use it and you recycle it, it doesn't always end up in the right place. When wind happens, runoff happens. So even with the best intentions of recycling, it's just better not to use it when possible. Another easy thing is composting too. So we do that in our staff offices now. We haven't done that before. This is the first year, and it's working out really well.
I'm sure it smells lovely as well.
It's actually not bad at all. It gets a really bad reputation. So it's really, really great. We have one staff member that changes it, takes it outside twice a week, and that's it. No big deal. And we don't get fruit flies or anything. They make great containers for it. So don't give it a bad rap.
No, my stepdad had one in our backyard for years, and he had the best lawn ever. Lauren, it's always great having you. And I love the two things we easily, every home can do, get a glass water bottle and refill it. And get your own shopping bags. Thank you so much. We so appreciate it. And thank you to your team, and happy Monday to all of you.
Thanks, Ronnie.
It's great having you. That's going to wrap it up for today's edition of The Splash Live. We'll be back tomorrow morning at 9:30 a.m. And just to let you know, you can catch Tyler coming up at 10 a.m. here as part of Civic Center TV and Lakes FM. Lakes FM, 150 minutes of live local programming. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Happy Monday, everyone.